Hey guys, and welcome to the TCC podcast, where we discuss everything coffee.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good very early morning, depending on where you are and what time you are listening to the TCC podcast.
I love this guy.
Obviously, if you are listening to this, we hope that you have a really good cup of coffee with you. We have one of our favorite coffees with us today that we're going to use to just enjoy. We took some time, took 4 sips before we entered. So you are on the TCC podcast today with none other than myself, Mr. Christiaan, all the nicknames that you have already heard that I will not remind you of again. And then to my left, obviously, is Mr. Theo.
Welcome.
Yes, it is just the two of us today. We get to talk about a very, very amazing topic that I was very excited about. But before we get into our topic of the day, let's stop by the coffee.
Thank you. If you're listening to this and you just went on our website, I know this was recorded weeks ago, but thank you very much.
Yeah, my goodness, the notification just came through.
We just got a notification that you guys were checking out the site. We love it.
Yes, so today's coffee. Obviously, we've talked about Theo not being a coffee drinker. He's just a coffee taster. But there was one cup of coffee that I've made Theo before that he actually finished and loved. And this is today's coffee. And let me tell you,
it is pure strawberries and grapefruit, man.
Yes,
I love it.
It is such a beautiful coffee. This is the one recipe that I've committed to memory that I will never forget, because if I can get that reaction every time, I will be so satisfied. No, but the coffee that we're drinking today is from Burundi. And I don't think we've had a Burundi yet on one of our episodes.
No, I don't think we've done a Burundi. Let me just... I have not filled in any details of Burundi. So this would be the very first Burundi on the show.
Yes, so this will be our first Burundi, and then for all of our pedantic, information hungry guys out there, we'll give you some. It is from the Kayanza region in Burundi, from the Heza washing station, and it was grown on the Mutana hill in the Kayanza region at 2,156 meters above sea level.
Yes.
It was a very, very small range that they actually chose to pick, and there were about 1,500 pickers involved actually in the picking of the coffee.
Community based, man.
And the coffee is from Long M.a.s.l project.
Yes. I'm not sure if you are familiar with Long M.a.s.l project.
I've tasted 1 or 2 of their coffees. I've not actually had a lot of any interaction with them as of yet.
Phenomenal people. They are, I would say, they send out into the world, in my opinion, the best Burundi coffees that I've ever tasted in my life.
And this really we have to be honest, this is our favorite coffee in the world, and this is from none other than our roaster, obviously, Sean.
Yes. The roasting barista.
The roasting barista from Roast of Earth.
Yes.
Such a beautiful coffee, and we just had to take, to properly introduce this coffee. It is so worth it, and we took just 5 sips to slow down,
just
to relax,
to get into it, man.
Just as we get into this episode to talk about my first experience on a coffee farm.
Now, just before you run to the coffee farm,
yes,
I know that you just mentioned that this is a Burundi coffee, but I'm not sure whether you actually classified it as a pea berry.
It's a red Bourbon pea berry, which I actually did not mention at all.
And it's a natural process as well.
So it's got that
gorgeous,
beautifully thick body,
chewy.
That chewiness that we kind of get from a natural process, with such beautiful acidity elements. This obviously
sweet acidity.
Just for the pedantic nature that I have, was at exactly 1:10 ratio. So I had 30.2 grams of coffee. I finished on 302 grams of water.
To be exact, Mr. Pedantic is in the house.
In 4 minutes 30 seconds.
Yes.
On 80 degrees Celsius. So
it's gorgeous.
And this is the recipe that we keep going back to for this coffee. We'll occasionally change it depending on how the coffee obviously changes with age. But this is for this coffee. This is a recipe that we go back to.
Now, just for the guys out there that wants a bit more information, if you ever do get your hands on the Long Miles Project Burundi Peaberry, specifically from the Mutana Hill, it was roasted at about 9 to 9 minutes and 10 seconds at about an 18% development. It was taken out of the roaster at 35 to 40 seconds after first crack, like official roll first crack, still cracking in the cooling tray.
Yes.
So it's extremely light, but at a 9 minutes we got some beautiful colors from it, and my word, it is amazing.
Now, also to say, this was inside a Gissen roaster, which obviously
Yes.
is very, very thick steel, and this is why, like we said, we trust our roaster. But no, so we're talking about my first trip, obviously not Theo's first trip to the Mpenyati coffee farm in KwaZulu-Natal.
And we thought we'll make this episode a slightly more practical, personal experience episode, just to throw something out there for you guys listening. To if in case you ever want to go to a coffee farm, it is worth doing it. So Tian's gonna express his feelings and his experience to really get you hungry to want to go to the farm.
Yes,
it's gorgeous.
And I think what to start off is, initially when I met Theo, he had been on coffee farms. He'd done a bunch of courses with regards to coffee growing and processing and drying, and I knew nothing, right? I walked around with like medium to dark roast coffees.
Well, you knew you loved coffee.
Yes, I know, and I thought that I loved coffee, and I had like a kit bag with me, taking it everywhere, and then started talking to Theo with regards to what it's like on a coffee farm, what we're going to do. And then when we started talking about prepping for Barista Champs, he then said, listen, but then I have to take you to the coffee farm with me. So comes to me excited. He's like, listen, so we're going to a new farm. Met this farmer. His name is Des. Amazing guy. So we get there and we meet the most amazing people. And I think I'll talk a little bit about, we're going to go into kind of the sciencey stuff about the coffee, but this is completely just experience and how this changed my love of coffee.
Different level.
Yes, completely different level. So we get there and I'm super excited, right? I take out all the coffee equipment. I'm going to make them a cup of coffee. And it's late in the evening. So everyone is like, and Lee is like, no, I'm going to bed. And everybody goes to bed, and there we are. I was so excited to make coffee for everyone. And
everybody goes to bed.
Just like, no, they're tired. And then I thought to myself, oh, they farm coffee every day, They kind of get their fill of it, maybe.
Yeah. Especially Leonor cappuccinos.
Oh my goodness.
My goodness, she loves cappuccinos.
And the moment we start slurping coffee that,
her small toes would go reverse.
Yeah, no. So she really, obviously she grew up in that environment. You don't slurp anything. And now we come with our cupping spoons and we sound like we're sniffing the coffee. So
at 8:30 at night in her kitchen. I remember that.
And I think what was so amazing, first of all, is obviously farm life starts early.
Yes.
It's not, if you wait till 7, 8 o'clock, you're not going to get half the work done. The sun is beating down on you. It's extremely hot. So we get up first morning, and as we head into the coffee fields, it is still dark, but the sun is coming up just over the hills.
I remember that.
We have this kind of, you see, they say that you can't hear a picture, right? But we see that sunrise in, the Lion King movie.
Oh,
and
yes,
it's like, so it goes, like the whole Lion King thing goes on. And the sun comes over these beautiful, beautiful hills with the coffee trees just as far as you can see.
With the ocean in the background.
Yes, in fact.
Man.
So the farm very low above sea level, but perfect environment. And so you're literally on that, you're driving through the hills and you're looking out over the ocean. So what a view, right? But
man, now I miss the farm.
Definitely.
I still want to go back to the farm.
We really do need to go back.
Soon, we just need to open this next shop.
Yes, but then, and I think what I appreciated most is because we don't really know what goes into a cup of coffee.
Yes.
And that's I think what we learned, or what I learned on that first day more than anything else, is what it takes to make a cup of coffee. So let me be honest, I'm about, I'm 118 meters tall, a little bit taller actually, and then if you want to take it, I'm 6 foot flat, right?
Yes.
And these
Not
beautiful...
the shortest guy in the world.
Yeah, but also not the tallest. But you'll understand why I'm telling you this. The coffee trees that we were working on...
About your hip height.
...were about like at my waist. And so you are on a hill that is obviously at an angle, and you're looking for the perfect red. As pedantic as I am, it can't be a bit under, it can't be a bit over. It has to be cherry red, Ferrari, Coca-Cola kind of red.
Yeah, because we want that perfect bricks. We want to play with this coffee, man.
And it's a Katoai, it's a red Katoai. So you want the red in that cherry. So now you're under these leaves, bending over, and half an hour, 45 minutes in, already I can feel this back is not used to bending like this. We're against the hill, the sun is beating down on us.
It's 20 past 6 in the morning.
Yeah, 20 past 6 in the morning, we start picking coffee. And I think spending the whole day watching the pickers in their kind of environment, seeing them interact with one another, and actually getting to the tree. And let me tell you, if you are going to a coffee farm and you have the urge to eat the cherry and not necessarily throw it in the bucket.
Here it comes. Guys, you have to listen to this.
Don't judge yourself, okay? We've all done it. Theo eats half the coffee that we pick.
Always, but I do keep all the beans, though.
Yeah, no. So obviously we do keep the beans, but we eat half the coffee. But obviously growing our trees here in Pretoria, we don't really deal with fruit flies and worms and that kind of thing. And after about the 25th or 30th bean that I eat, I see Theo keeps popping them into his hands, and I kind of don't understand why. And as I do it, I see the little worm inside, and then I realized, oh my goodness, I have been chowing worm salad this whole time.
Luckily, he never knew it.
But I have to be honest, from that point on, I was kind of a little bit more picky, and then eventually I just got to the point, you know what, I never tasted them, I'm not dying, I'll just keep eating.
It's extra proteins, man.
And
you know how much of a germaphobe I am.
Yes,
But now, obviously, it makes sense why I popped them to my hand first, because I knew we haven't sprayed for any fruit flies as of yet at that point, because at that point the coffee farm was in a very struggling position in the space of we had some leaf miners, and they came through the farm and we lost probably about 80% of the harvest we were supposed to have. We only had about a 20% harvest because of this leaf miner. Now, for those of you that don't know, on the blog post, we'll put all of the detail on there so you guys can actually see the photos. But it's this really, really tiny little worm that gets laid inside of the leaf, and it eats everything inside of the leaf without you being able to see it. And then the leaf just dies and falls off the tree. Now, if a coffee tree doesn't have leaves, it means he can't pull in any vitamin D, which means he can't work with the glucose that he has, which means it didn't produce close to the amount of cherries that it had to. So it was a horrible harvest, but Des survived it. And this year we're going strong, man. We've sprayed for everything. Literally.
Oh man, I'm so excited. Des keeps sending us these photos of the blossoms on the trees. Now he's teasing us with those beautiful lollipop colors that are getting through on the trees now, turning from...
And the new processing plant.
Oh, you see,
I'm so jealous.
The moment we find somebody who can take over my job, then I can spend all the time experimenting with coffee. But
my word.
no, I would miss people too much. But
yes, definitely. I love the farm, but I love people slightly more.
Yes. And I think one of the things that, moving on now, just getting back to it, was seeing how I think committed Des was to coffee, taking into consideration that the coffee farm was not necessarily his main stream of income.
No, it's not. It's hobby on the side for now.
Yes.
Until it can afford to pay him.
And obviously, you think you have a perspective of what it's like on a coffee farm, right? So I grew up in an environment where a lot of my family were farmers. They grew corn, they had cattle.
Is.
Oh no, yeah.
A lot of them still are farmers.
A lot of my family are farmers, and you kind of think, you know more or less what farming is. I've burned blood red in the sun on a plow, so done it. And we get there and to see a completely different environment and to actually, and I love this. So obviously you guys can tell when we talk about how passionate we are about what we know about coffee, right?
Yeah.
And with regards to coffee farming, I still know absolutely nothing.
Well,
and,
even me.
And to see Des explain every single thing on the farm, why it is done like this, why the trees are planted on this specific yield with the grass at this height, why they're planted this far from one another. And
Yes.
I loved seeing that passion, and you could see the love and the care that kind of went into this farm. And then somebody who obviously has been a farmer for 5 years at that point and has wanted to farm coffee for a very long time, having a conversation with him and being the most teachable person that I have ever met in my life, him being both our seniors by quite a few years.
Yes.
I mean, more years for me than for you.
Yeah, because you're about halfway down the line from me.
But I think this really blew me away, is because he gave us this freedom to go to take a 20 kg bag of coffee. We spent sorting it, we experimented with it, looked for different colors, and that's where my pedantic nature obviously kicked in, and I really enjoyed it, because if it was not a very specific shade of red, it had a little bit of yellow, a little bit of brown, a little bit of purple, it goes to the other pile. And then we experimented with this, and we sat on our bums for 5 hours in the sun, kind of sorting just the colors, not anything else, just the colors. Putting them in the pulper, working with the guys, then allowing it to ferment, checking the fermentation, and seeing Theo, who now we said on this episode is one of the biggest germaphobes that I have ever met in my life, take the honey that is obviously the secretion of the microorganism that is chowing the sugar off of the coffee bean itself.
Yeah, imagine fermented mucilage, man.
And then Theo puts it in his mouth, and you can see he's fighting in his mind
not to
get past the thought of him putting millions of microorganisms in his mouth, and then going, wow, this is actually quite nice, but I'm not tasting it again.
Cringing again on the inside.
And to find, for example, the mango and pineapple flavors that came out of that honey. And which obviously was so interesting, because where the farm was built, it used to be completely dominated by sugarcane and macadamia farms.
Yes.
So the acidity in the soil is obviously completely different. And then
it's got the malic acid in the soil, so it creates these beautiful stone fruit type of elements.
And seeing Des's kids on the farm, not necessarily, his 2 daughters not being as involved, but seeing that little boy.
Oh my word. Up every morning at 4.
Yes.
Drives with his dad before he goes to school for 2 hours.
Supposed to go to school, but he commits to the coffee. And then also being in the fields, and then you see Hannah coming by on her bike at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Now, this is a 16-year-old teenage girl that does professional endurance motorbike racing. Crazy girl, man.
So, what an interesting, crazy environment. And then, going into our fully washed coffee, and the batches that we did was so small that we didn't really use, a bath or kind of a platform to wash them. We just washed them with our hands. So we completely kept stirring them, getting the mucilage off to such a degree that after 3 days of letting it ferment, washing it, that I had blisters on my fingers.
Yes, remember that.
Yes, I do remember that.
The fun thing, he's now telling it from a personal experience. I'm obviously taking videos, which again you guys can go and see on the blog. And while you're talking like this, I'm actually tempted to maybe edit some of this stuff into the YouTube video. So I'll see if I can get some time on my hands and actually put some of the footage in the YouTube video. So if you guys are keen to go to our YouTube channel, if you search it, it is fairly hard to find. You go through the website, a lot easier. So our website is available in our biography on the Instagram page, which is The Caffeine Community. Just hit the website, go in, hit the little YouTube picture, and we'll take you straight to the YouTube channel. It's still very new, so it's hard to search for.
Yeah.
And if you type in TCC, you get all of these other cryptocurrency coins and different things. So anyway, you follow the website, it's easy to find. But so I'm taking these videos of him doing a Kenya double washed process. It takes him 3 days. So we ferment at night, get the mucilage loose, then wash it or throw the water out, then flush it for 2-3 hours. Him standing, rubbing the coffee between his hands in these buckets. So if you're on YouTube, you can see these videos now. But just him working at this for days. 3rd day, looking at it, going, I have blisters on my hands. I loved it.
And saying also, I've had blisters on my hands before. I've never really I don't think that I've ever been afraid to work. But to take, something that was so slimy in the beginning that turns to the same texture as a river pebble.
Yes.
And seeing that process. And yes, if you think about it now, you're just listening to, obviously, me speaking, thinking, wow, this guy's such a coffee nerd. How do you even get excited about something like this? But I promise that at that stage, you already see the end result.
Yes.
So with each turn, with each bean, each defect that you kind of take out, and we did stand in the sun by the drying beds, even after all of the processing was done, looking at beans that were less dense, beans that were cracked, all of those kinds of things, and already thinking, okay, cool, how is this going to affect that cup, right? So if I take this out, I can get that flavor just a little bit closer to what that person will enjoy.
Yes.
And freaking out about it, there's not being distant, sitting in a bucky or doing something far off.
Sitting next to us.
Sitting next to us, being there with us, picking out coffee with us, Zach joining us after school, coming to pick them out as well, and me trying to explain to this kid what we're trying to do, and I only now realized that he was looking at me like, bro, I do this every day. You're trying to explain this to me, which I actually so appreciated that he didn't look at this at the time 23-year-old guy thinking, man, I wish you knew what I knew. But spending time, kind of working through that process, and after we were done, I actually told Theo, I said, listen, man, I have a new respect for what coffee farmers and processors and pickers go through.
Yes.
Because you never really know what it takes. And this now being, honestly, in KwaZulu-Natal, and I think our top temperature was like 27 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, it wasn't the winter, but their winter is not the same as other places.
But still,
it was hot.
Yeah, it was hot, but I can guarantee you that there are coffee farms in much hotter and more humid places.
Oh, for sure.
And man, and I think if you take a look at what's some of the traditional clothing wear or the common clothing wear is in, for example, countries like Rwanda or so on.
Yes.
It is much longer sleeves, trousers. Man, you must be dying of heat. So
no, I wouldn't be able to though.
No. So
I'll be taking the sunburn, man.
Thinking about what goes into making that one cup. Now, having done it myself, thinking about looking at the video of Barista Champs actually watching the Coffee Man movie by Sasa Sestek on the coffee farm.
On the coffee farm that very night. Yes.
And then hearing him talk about how they chose this coffee because it went through this process, how they worked with the farmer itself, finally actually understanding what it is like sitting on the bucket because your back hurts from bending over the whole time.
You remember that?
Yes, I do remember.
He was standing and picking for the first, let's call it 3 hours. And at one point he's like, Theo, my back's breaking. And he looks at me and I'm sitting on my bucket.
And he had been sitting on his bucket for those 3 hours.
The thing is, I've been picking for a few years. So he had to feel it first before I was going to tell him.
And I have to be honest, in the moment I was so frustrated. Like, why didn't you tell me this? And then afterwards I'm like, now you learned your lesson now. You have so much more of an appreciation.
So much more respect, man. Because the other pickers don't sit on the bucket.
No.
They move too fast. Yeah. Like they pick. We were picking like crazy. We got 20, maybe 25 kgs of cherries down between the two of us.
In the 3 days.
Yes. The pickers on the farm picking between 20 and 40 kgs a day.
Yes.
By themselves. I'm going, what? I'm never, ever being called a professional picker in my life because I'm way too slow.
We pick the morning, Des comes, actually picks us up, not like he does, which he doesn't do obviously with the pickers. We go back to the house, we eat breakfast.
Yes.
When we get back after 45 minutes of an absence, there are 2 brand new bags full of cherries waiting, and the guys have moved on to a completely different hill.
Yeah, we have to drive to the next hill to go and start repicking that side.
But then going actually, and this is kind of where, and this was such an interesting experience, listening to a podcast ourselves at that time.
Yes.
Because, I mean, the hill is huge. There's only so much to talk about. And let's be honest, even though we try to be, we're not the fittest guys, right? When you're bending over, you're against the hill, you've been picking for 4 hours.
Hey, we're fit making coffee. That
Yes.
doesn't mean we're fit picking coffee.
No. So the conversations kind of get with raggedy breath.
I'm struggling to breathe. The sun's
So,
beating down.
We listened to a podcast ourselves, and at some point, it was about, I think, 1 o'clock the afternoon. On the last day, we were picking in the Katwai fields again. We had been picking F6 the day before.
Yes.
And then some point picking, and as I kind of, my bucket's full and I need to go look for Theo, and I am kind of over this heat, right? I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm over this heat. I didn't know what it takes for a cup of coffee to even reach me, and I look over this hill, over the ocean, and this fresh, cool breeze hits my face, and
I can smell it, man.
And that, I think, is where the appreciation of it sunk in.
Yeah.
Now going and telling Theo as well, I don't think I will complain about paying for red honey process ever again.
Yes.
Or even a fully washed process, especially one that was handpicked, one that went through so many sorting processes, a completely new appreciation for coffee itself, and then approaching each cup in that way. Now, speaking to people who buy a 86 point specialty from the Bahu processing plant in Bugoyu in Rwanda, and then they want to do a dark roast on it, and a part of my heart dies. Now, obviously, like I said, we don't necessarily believe in a right or wrong, but I've tasted a light to medium roast and different kinds of roast profiles on that coffee before, and a friend of ours, Wilden, was actually on the farm working with them in Rwanda, seeing the work that they go through, and now you want to burn that sugar so that it, you know, has that kind of smoky, ashy flavor to it, knowing what went into the cup.
That just kills me on the inside.
And thinking, my goodness, how would I feel if I had to pick coffee every day, process it every day, sort it by hand every day, get blisters every day, and then somebody comes to visit the farm and tell me, hey man, listen, I love the coffee from this farm. Oh, I love buying that dark roast from this guy, and it's your coffee. I would smack that guy with a coffee tree. Really, I would pick one of them and I would smack somebody with a full-grown coffee tree.
And it's not that we've got anything against dark roast coffees. It's just that dark roast coffees has its place. Don't go and take a specialty coffee that had so much labor that went into it and burn it to shiveries. It's so unnecessary.
Yes, think about, like I explained, the thought that Des put into his farm. Right?
Yes.
So the trees were planted far enough from one another that even when they are fully grown, they can move with the tractor and the trailer between the different lines and not harm the trees.
Yes.
They used smaller trees planted next to the bigger trees so that the bigger trees can shade the smaller ones. They allow the grass to grow to a certain height so that the wind doesn't affect them. They used
to protect
the
them,
whole environment, the hills, the angles, everything that they used was to look after that little coffee sapling.
That's it.
Because of his love for coffee, not because it was going to make him money. If you're in coffee farming, you know, right? You're no millionaire.
Don't make no money, man.
But the love of it. So you think about the love that went into that, and now you want to add sugar, or you want to add milk, or you want somebody to boil it for you. And if you go check Theo's Instagram, you'll see we actually posted a video this week, obviously from when we're recording, but where I have a little board over my head that says...
it's actually on TCC. It's posted on TCC's
Oh, fantastic.
Instagram
So
as
it's
well.
on TCC as well. It said, listen, the perfect cappuccino temperature is 65, not 100. Because why? Why do you boil that thing to burn the sugars to such a degree? And also saying it being sent back after they added sugar to a coffee that, in our opinion, doesn't necessarily need it.
Yeah.
And immediately I think, my goodness, you have no idea what somebody went through. We actually told somebody, and I think we mentioned this, it takes about 400 liters of water that coffee goes through before you get your 1 cup.
Yes.
So it takes about 400 liters to make your 1 cup of coffee. And I don't think that even applies to specialty coffee. I think that is more closer to...
well, that's fully washed, yes. So that's coffee that they used to create commercial coffee with, from the day you plant the tree, all the water it takes, all the way, picking, fully washed into your cup. 400 liters of water per cup of coffee that you make.
Yes.
That's crazy, man.
So, thinking about that, then going, you know what, I want to make this an instant. I want to make this a dark roast. I want to... I want to infuse this with whiskey or brandy, or you know,
you just gave me a flashback.
I want to do all this, and then we get a coffee like the one that we're drinking today. I mean, 1,513 pickers involved in this, from a project that really aims not just to get out good coffee, but to look after the community that's involved in making it.
Yes.
And we get such beautiful flavor by just taking into account what the coffee needs, not what we need. And yes, you're obviously coffee drinkers, we want something specific as well. But
for the palate.
Yeah, for our palates. But there's something that even a coffee needs, that a roaster understands, that a brewer understands, that a barista understands, and that you, obviously, as a coffee drinker, especially if you really get into that coffee and you want to give the coffee what it needs. And let's be honest, sometimes what a coffee needs is not what you need, which means we move on to the next coffee. I actually wanted to mention this. One of my favorite, and you know this, my favorite everyday drinking coffee. And I don't mean a tasting coffee. I mean a drinking coffee that I will drink a cup of. Yes, it'll take me 4 hours to drink, but
the one that I don't appreciate drinking because I'm not a coffee drinker
is a K7 variety grown in Hazyview.
Oh, but that is amazing coffee.
But
and I heard that you have made it for everyone and given feedback to everyone on this K7, and I've not tasted it yet.
Yes, but we haven't had a chance to enjoy it.
My goodness, this sucks.
We haven't had a chance to enjoy it together. But
that's true.
That for me, for example, is my favorite everyday drinking coffee, because what the coffee needed to get that flavor and what I need as a drinking coffee is the same thing. Is Theo necessarily going to drink that coffee? No. He likes this.
Well, that K7... I picked with my own hands.
Oh, but see, that's
I
different.
did a yellow honey process, so it was fermented for 3 days. So basically, just over 40. Well, it was between 40.
Between 48 and 72 hours.
Yeah, I think it was a 52 hours if I remember correctly, because I did I think 9 batches. I'll have to go back to my notes, but I think that one was fermented for 52 hours. Taken out, so obviously semi-washed, so it's pulped with water, wet pulp. Then I take that into the drum, just covered with a little bit of water, so I'm doing an anaerobic on it.
Yeah.
Letting it stand there for the 52 hours, coming back after, I think it was 48 hours, sticking my hand in there the very first time, rolling it around, just mixing it.
An amazing feeling for you.
Oh my word, it was so amazing. Taking that, putting it out on the drying bed, so it can dry equally, just so that it's dry enough for me to then transport back to Gauteng, where we live, from the coffee farm. Now this was in Hazyview, which is Mpumalanga in South Africa. And so I brought it back, threw it out onto my drying beds here in Pretoria, and I did a shade dry on that coffee for 70 days.
My goodness.
Taking that out, putting it into these bags, now resting. We did a fresh roast on it. So my appreciation for that coffee is greatly. Now, would I have a whole cup? Not necessarily, because it's a even though I really appreciate it, it bores my tongue after the 5th or the 6th sip. And that's why you have a different perspective on appreciation for that cup, because it's a good drinking coffee.
Yes.
It's something you can drink 5 times a day, all day long, and really enjoy it.
And also, it's not going to make me poor.
Yes.
You know, it does touch my pocket a little bit, but you know, it's not going to take all the coffee money that I have per month.
Yes.
But yeah, and even serving a client a coffee that I can tell them, listen, I was involved in picking this coffee myself. So the moment they ask me, listen, what do you think about this coffee? I tell them, well, I picked it myself.
Yeah, let's start at the beginning.
I'm extremely biased. But going to a coffee farm, experiencing it firsthand, seeing what it takes to kind of create that cup, obviously getting to know Des, getting to know the people on the farm, now looking at a cup and a completely different perspective, and not just the cup, the whole ecosystem.
Yes.
Looking at the environments that the people live in, and now thinking, my goodness, coffee is the thing that we obviously choose to make our living off of.
Well, try to.
Well, I didn't want to say try to. You always said there's no scarcity, there's only opportunity.
Only opportunity, man.
And then realizing I never had enough appreciation for the people that actually helped to create the beverage that we choose to drink and enjoy every day.
That's it.
So having a new appreciation. So getting obviously to the questions that we try to answer in every episode.
Yes. Why is this important? Actually, a very, very good answer to that is understanding, and I know that we've mentioned on these podcasts a few times, the traceability, that the reason why it is as special, and when I say special, I don't just mean special in the sense of it being special, but speciality wise.
Yeah.
Why it becomes so special is the traceability of the coffee itself. Now looking back, after your first coffee road trip,
yes,
it's this whole experience of now you know what goes into it, and yes, respect is there, more love is there, more everything is there, but the value of the coffee just went up, and that's kind of, I think, the answer to the first question of today's podcast. That would be, why this information? Why is this important? Well, because now I really understand the value that the farmers try and bring us, but we look so past it in our busy daily lives and our schedules, that we sometimes miss the value that they're trying to add to us, to give us something that's worth our money.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for me it's a very close to my heart topic, is the value that comes all the way from the farm to your pocket.
Yes.
And if you don't get the value for it, then it's almost like it was in vain.
But also, just with regards to the value, is knowing then how many people were involved and what they had to go through. We get to a place much easier of not looking at the price of a coffee bag and then saying, you know what, I think this is a little bit expensive.
Now, rather go to the grocery store.
Yeah. Now saying also, if somebody tries to charge you 300 Rand a kg for commercial coffee more than they should, that's obviously a completely different.
Yes.
But if you take a look, you go to your favorite specialty coffee shop, you buy that red honey process, natural process, even a fully washed process, and they tell you, listen, it was picked by this many people, or was grown on this farm, or with this family. And I love this especially with like the coffees that we brought in from Colombia, that we get from Sabores, the fact that they tell us who the farmer and his families are, because those are the guys who. They're the guys who stress about the harvest for the year. They're the guys who look after the pickers. They're the guys who try to improve.
Have to do financial planning for the whole year ahead with last year's harvest money. Like, I love the fact that we can actually connect to those farmers.
Yes.
You go on Instagram, you send, Ricardo or any one of those guys a message, they will personally reply.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's necessary. And that's why I appreciate Sabores so much.
Yes.
Because they do that for us.
Yes, and the fact that they can actually connect us with the farmers, and that they know the farmers themselves, which is really, really cool.
The value, man. Yes.
And I think getting now to the second question is...
how can this make the coffee better?
And I think we kind of already, in the whole episode, actually touched on all three of these questions, because knowing that, especially when you get to the point where you start to analyze a cup of coffee, you know that this is how a natural reacts, this is how this reacts, fully washed acts, and this is how a honey process responds in brewing. Getting to know now, let's say, for example, you start being that person that buys from a specific farm, right? knowing this is what they do. Not only can you make a better cup of coffee that tastes better and that you can brew more consistently, but there's a connection to it that is more than just a brown bean that you paid money for.
Exactly.
I've said this before and I'll say it again. I fell in love with coffee for the connection between people. So the fact that traceability gets me to that community, being able to go to, let's say, for example, one of my favorite farms, the La Hermosa farm in Guatemala, and being able to just pop them a message on their about, or they contact us part on their website, or sending them a message on Instagram saying, listen man, I had your coffee from this roaster.
Loved it.
This is the flavors that I got out. It was so amazing. Thank you. Because how often do the farmers and the pickers actually know how much we appreciate it, right?
They don't.
Because they don't know who's buying their coffee.
Right.
They know that they work and slave every day. It's blood, sweat, and tears, and to get it out.
That's it.
But the fact being able to connect to that community, and I think we'll come back to this point quite a few times, but that, in my opinion, is what makes it better. And then going into, so how do I make this practical? Well, get to learn about the coffee that you're drinking.
Yes, and chat to your barista at your local shop where you buy it, or connect with the website or even the farmer if you can, and go, do you have any suggestions on this coffee? How can I use the traceability that was given to me to connect back, so give value back to them, saying I have your coffee,
Yes.
and them then adding even more value, going, well, this is the way that we enjoy drinking it. Or, they can connect you to someone that can give you phenomenal ratios or recipes or whatever to drink the coffee at.
Yes.
The traceability makes it possible to connect.
Yes.
That's what community is about.
And for anyone who is then a coffee professional, who has a barista who is passionate about what they do, and
Yes.
and let's be honest, we do find people that do the job and they have bills to pay, and we do understand that necessity as well.
That's
but
a life, yes.
Having someone who is so excited about their coffee, they want to tell you about what's going on, they want to tell you about where it's from and how it tastes, and they want to present it to you. Giving that person the opportunity to learn more about it. Now, yes, not everybody has the opportunity to take their barista to a farm or to connect to a farmer, and the fact that is not a possibility actually saddens my heart. But I do understand how, just having a realistic perspective, but taking that person, giving them an opportunity if they want to take it, to connect to that space, to connect to a farm, or even just allowing them to meet your green bean importers.
Right.
The first time we met Jose from Sabores, and they were there at the shop, and we had a conversation, and how we learned on both sides, we learned something brand new. We talked about how, okay, cool, we would love it if you'd roasted the sample a bit different, because I don't think that you're doing the coffee justice. Them now giving us samples.
Oh my word!
That
amazing
are phenomenal. Not judging what they did, but the fact that they talked about with such passion. And I have to say this, and then I think we'll end this amazing discussion, because we can go on for weeks just in this conversation.
Forever. I mean, we just discussed 3 days of the farm. I've got so much more, but we'll do another one.
Yeah, so we're off the first time farm experience, but I think we're going in a very good direction. How we meet Jose the day, and how he introduces what they do.
Yes.
He never told me, listen, I have a 89 point El Puente that you have to taste. His first line to me was, so we bring in coffee from Colombia. I grew up in Colombia myself, and the farmers there are doing such amazing things, and I think that the world has a misrepresented perspective of what Colombian coffee can be.
Exactly.
And we want to bring what they are doing to people.
Exactly. To the everyday people.
And I so love that, because that, obviously, being somebody who is passionate about coffee and who can't influence that space, meeting somebody who can, who actually goes to the farm, and you can actually check out their social media as well.
Yeah, please do.
How they go to farms, they connect with them, they meet the people themselves, they experiment on the farm with the guys as well. So they bring you that personal touch to it.
That's it.
And so they're putting that into practice. And we obviously would love to one day go visit some of the farms in Ethiopia or Rwanda or
Burundi for, like, I mean,
yes.
I would definitely want to go see the Mutana hill.
But yes, giving people the opportunity to connect to that part of coffee, I think is a very good way to put it into practice.
Yes. And we want to bring that to you guys. So I can actually say now that very, very soon we will be recording actually a few episodes with Jose himself from Sabores. He's very excited, or he says he's very excited to come on the show and share his experience of importing, exporting, growing up there, and, you know, kind of bringing a bit of a Spanish twist.
Yes.
Because he's now our Spanish translator.
Yeah. He helps me with pronunciation that I don't know.
Yes. Even though he's really good at it. But yeah, so we'll have him on the show very soon. We're very excited about that, to bring something from that side of the hill, literally as a practical thing, where it was not just an experience of going to the farm once. He actually grew up between those valleys.
Yeah.
And so we want to bring you guys as much value as possible through this podcast. So if you have any questions, please run to our Instagram, The Caffeine Community, pop us a message. We want to connect with you. If you want to be on the show, please let us know. We want you on the show.
Yes.
This should bring value to everybody out there. We don't know everything. We can't bring you all the value. We can only bring you the value that you know, other people share with us to share with you. And so give us a shout, give us some feedback. We love the feedback. And that brings us to the end of this episode.
Yeah. So may you go. May you connect to your coffee in a different way. May that allow you to connect to people.
Yes.
And to where it's from better. And then when you now appreciate your cup, not just for the flavor, and you take that first sip of the day, or the first 1,000th sip of the day, may you find your happy place in every single cup.
Chat to you guys next episode. Cheers.